Oh, I have been looking forward to this video. It's time to finally get to grips with Procreate Dreams and try my hand at some more complex animations. Hoi hoi folks, and welcome to today's video. I'm Sean, aka Uncle Frogface, and yes, we're going to be getting into some animation today, but using Procreate Dreams. So I have my iPad to hand. I've tried Procreate Dreams a little bit. So for those of you that don't know, I love animation. Oh, I love animation, whether it's stop motion animation or frame by frame or motion graphics. It's just, really love it. And it's one of those things that I have a theoretical knowledge of more than a practical. I do have some practical experience of animation. In fact, here are a few things that I have made.
Looks like we lost them, Captain.
Great work, computer. Let's warp.
And that last one was a mixture of 2D and 3D animation done mostly on the iPad. And I'll leave a link to that in the corner so you can go and check out that full video. But that was using just Procreate. Last year, the end of last year, Procreate brought out Procreate Dreams, which is an all-in-one animation studio. So rather than having just a small piece of animation software within Procreate, which is what we currently have with the flipbook and the animation assist, now we actually have a full program. So I've played around with it a little bit, but today I want to go in and I want to redo the opening title for my channel, so you would have already seen that. Also, using some of the assets from it to create an end screen and a few other bits as well. So the aim for today is to get that opening title done and dusted, and then I'll have everything set up and can use exactly the same process to do all of the other bits that I want to do. But this is part of the rebranding for the channel. I actually do have a bit of a plan. So unlike art, where you just go ahead and can wing it, it is really a good idea to plan ahead. So I'm not sure how clearly you'll be able to see this, but I've been doodling this down. I actually showed a little sneak peek of this on Instagram as well. But essentially, we're keeping the same vibe of the opening title as it is, but just tweaking it and making it a bit more current, I guess. So I'm going to get a few bits set up in preparation in the studio, and then we can have a proper look at Procreate Dreams and what it has to offer. Right, so let me just get my plan out and I can kind of show you in Procreate what the idea is. This might change, but this is kind of what I've got in my head. So essentially this is the background I'm going to be using, and I've already created this in Procreate, because the good thing about Procreate and Procreate Dreams is you can take from one and import it to the other. So I know I can take this and take it in there. And this is, instead of that flat blue background for the water, this is what I've got instead. You see it's made up of multiple layers. In fact, I could probably squish those all down together, but for now, let's just add a new layer, and I'll grab a pencil brush. There we go. I like the 6B, and then let's go, something's going to show up nice and bright on here. We'll go for an orange. Right. So just like the original opening animation, there are going to be lily pads floating around, and they're going to be in kind of little sections. So just down here, there's going to be some lily pads. There's going to be some up here as well, and also a little section of them like this. So we've kind of got 3 zones of lily pads. So that's the first bit. We're going to open with all these little lily pads. There we are, all floating around, and they're going to be different sizes. There might be a couple of flowers in there as well, but essentially like this. So these are all going to be floating. Okay, that's part one. Then from this lovely serene scene with some water reflections and all that kind of stuff, the logo. So, my logo is going to appear from here as a little dot and then get bigger and bigger and kind of do a bounce. So it will overshoot and then come back. And then from that, I'm going to have some art tools sticking out here. They're going to splay out and come back. And under here is going to be my name, Uncle Frogface, maybe Uncle Frogface Studio, haven't decided yet. And then the last little bit of animation is from over this direction, which is why this section is more clear. I'm going to have a subscribe button like this, just to remind people to subscribe to the channel, you know, if you haven't already. And that's going to be thrown in and essentially is going to float across the water to here. Then the logo is going to come down central and everything's going to and kind of pull in behind it, and then the logo will fade out. That is the plan. So there are quite a few assets that I need to draw for this. I've already done the background, obviously, and then I've got my logo is already designed. I do have all of the pens, pencils, paintbrushes, crayons, all those kinds of things to pop out around the edge. That is going to have to be drawn. All the lily pads are going to have to be drawn. The subscriber button is going to have to be drawn. And I'm going to have to put the text in for my name as well. So that is all kind of motion graphic-y stuff. And then I'm going to do some hand-drawn frame-by-frame animation as well of some water shimmers across so that it's this constantly moving thing. This is a lot to take on in, well, essentially 2 days. I've got today, which is Wednesday, tomorrow, and then Friday I'll have to edit because this video will be going up today. And actually I've only got half of today because I've got social worker meetings today as well. So yeah, very, very busy, but I'm really going to power through and I'm really going to test out Procreate Dreams. So I know that I could create all of my assets in Procreate and then transfer them into Procreate Dreams and then do what needs to be done. But I want to actually try using it. I'm not going to import any brushes or anything like that. I'm just going to use Procreate Dreams as it comes. Okay, so here we are in Procreate Dreams, and I've gone ahead and already started this. So all I did is, from here, I opened a new file in widescreen, and it came up with a blank screen. And all I did is imported the drawing, but in 2 separate parts. So actually, we've got this background, and then we've got this painted frame as a separate element. And that's because I want that to be the edge of this painting. So the things that when they're floating around, they're kind of, they don't go past into that white border. So really intuitive controls on this. So I can move this section down here as well. This is the timeline. If I put 3 fingers on, I can scroll up and down, and that changes the height of these so that you can see more at once. And if you go from side to side, you can stretch out and shrink the timeline. 2 fingers moves everything around. 2 fingers to undo, just like in Procreate. And then if I go into drawing mode like this, you can see up here we've got exactly the same functions as you would have in Procreate. So actually really easy to use. We've got the same color selector, layers, got the same brushes, so I can go in here, I can get my 6B pencil, I can turn that to orange, I can come in, I can paint, and I can repaint that thing that I want. Although I probably shouldn't do that on the layer that I'm working on. So in fact, what I could do is come in here, add a layer onto this drawing, and then I can delete this later. So I can have the marker to show I want that. Then I can go outside of the border as well, like that. So I can go outside, and when you come out of draw mode, you can still see just over here, that section is still there, you can still see it, but it's outside of the actual play area. Then if I want to hide that, I can just come in and I can hide that layer, or I can completely get rid of it. Could also go in and create a new track and draw on that instead. There we go, so that now has created a track. If I come down to this drawing and get rid of that, and then come back up to here. If I really zoom in, you can see that's come in as just as a single frame. You can stretch out frames like that. You can see I've got onion skinning on there as well. So as soon as we go past that onto the next frame, it comes up in purple. Very useful for frame by frame. But I am going to delete that content, and I'm going to use this as our little planning layer. So I know the logo is going to go about here. I also know the direction like this for my little subscribe button thingy to come over here, and then everything pull in. I think that is everything. So next thing for me to do is to actually design some of these elements. So I think I'm going to start with the lily pads. I've got a new track. I'm going to go ahead and start drawing out lily pads where I want them to be, and then we can think about kind of shifting them around and doing that little animation. Okay, so a little bit of an update. I have been drawing lily pads, and actually it's been quite nice to do. I want to really zoom in. I'm in flipbook mode here, which you can move this bit around, but it gives you just so much more real estate on the screen to be able to draw. It's really, really nice. If I zoom right into these lily pads, you can see there's a lot of variation in the colour and tone in them. I kind of wanted it to feel like an illustration, obviously, but going down that kind of Monet route as well, so a little bit impressionist, obviously famous for his water lilies, so I thought that would fit nicely. I want to show you a couple of things that I've found out. So we go back to this mode. So firstly, the colour picker on here, if you go over to the sliders on the left, you'll notice there's no colour picker, but actually if you just use your finger and hold down, then the colour picker comes up. Very useful, and it only took me 20 minutes of searching on the web to actually find out how to do it. So that's the colour picker in Procreate Dreams. You'll also notice as well that I've got these on separate layers. So I've got, let me just hide that. There we go. So we've got this layer with just a couple, and this layer with a couple as well. I'm actually going to add more layers of lily pads. This is just the beginning. There are several ways of animating in Procreate Dreams. There's frame by frame, there's using the scale and rotate tools with keyframing, and there is perform mode. So actually in this one piece I'm going to be using all three of those. So the lily pads themselves, I'm still trying to decide at the moment whether I'm going to do kind of frame by frame or whether I'm going to do performance. But for now, I'm going to draw more lily pads, and I'll be back to you when we're actually ready to start doing some animation. Right, okay, so sometime later, I have all of these lovely lily pads painted. I'm just getting myself set up again. Yes, it is the next day. I had quite a lot to do yesterday outside of this. So today, full focus, let's get this done. Just to show you what I'm doing, so I've gone ahead and I've labelled these tracks. So we've got lily pads 1, 2, 3, 4 and flowers. We've got the border. I've already imported the logo as well, and of course we've got our background. So on my original intro that I made in Procreate, every single lily pad was individually animated frame by frame. So I've learned from my mistakes, because that took ages. I nearly swore then. That took a very long time. So that is why this time we have them in groups. So every group of lily pads is going to be animated, and that means I only have to animate 4 sets of movement rather than, how many lily pads do we actually have here? Dozens. Imagine having to animate all of these individually. No. Right, we are doing this. We're doing this the easy way. So I am doing this frame by frame. I have set each of these to 2 frames. I'm set to 24 frames a second. So that's 12 frames per second animating on 2s. If you're unaware of animating on 2s and stuff, then I highly recommend lots of YouTube channels. But this book over here, which is the Animator's Survival Kit, I highly recommend. It's been a classic for a long time for a reason. So I'm just going to check I've got my onion skins on. I do. So onion skins, let me see what happened the frame before. And essentially, let me just show you what my idea is. So I'm going to animate in a few different ranges of motion. So there we go. So I kind of want to do like a loop like this, almost like a kidney shape. And I'm exaggerating this. A figure of 8 like this. A bit of a back and forward like that. Just a little circle. So you see I'm just using very small movements. So I think for this one, I'm going to go ahead and just do a small circle. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to duplicate this picture, go along to this one, and then when I'm not in drawing mode, it actually means I can move this around and you can see my onion skin underneath. So that's where the last frame was. And essentially, let's do this. So if we're doing a small circle on this one, I can do this with my finger as well. I don't actually need my pen for this. So I'm going to do just a small circle. So I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to duplicate this frame. You can see I've got another onion skin. How many onion skins am I seeing? I can go to edit onion skins backwards. There we go. The more you do, the more you can see, and you can turn the opacity up for them as well. So I'm going to increase that and turn it down to about there. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to duplicate and move along to that frame and move a little bit more. And you can already see, if I go back to this, we're starting to get that movement in here. So I'm going to go ahead and animate all of these, and then I will come back and show you what they look like. But before we do that, did you know I have a goal this year to get to 10,000 subscribers on the channel? And it's so easy for you to get involved and to help and to join the Frogface family. All you have to do is see just down there, right down there, there's a subscribe button. Just click it. That's all. You know what? If you want to go the extra mile and really show people that you enjoyed the video, click the like button as well, and maybe they'll join us. You know, you help me, I help you. I do giveaways and tutorials. All you have to do is like and subscribe. It's a win-win situation. Anyway, that's given you enough time to click the button, so let's get back to the video. Okay, so if I press play now, you can see all the lily pads are just moving around, and these are all looping animations as well. In fact, also went ahead, if I go down to one of these, so this is lily pad 1. If I open this up, you see I've got lily pad 1. I've also got a shadow layer. So if I go right in and zoom, you can see I can just added that in, and all I did was duplicate that layer, move it slightly, and then I've gone and added down here opacity and Gaussian blur. And you do that by using the playhead. You can click on that and you can do filters and all sorts. You can do moving keyframes, and we'll get into moving keyframes when we come into using the logo. We'll definitely be doing that. But yeah, for now, this is how it's looking. It looks like a lot. It's actually not too bad at all. Let me just close this all down. Here we are. So here I've got about 6.5, 7 seconds of animation, which does loop round, and then I can just continue to build on this and just have this running in the background. Next thing to do is the logo animation. Okay, now we've got all of that done, it's time to think about the logo. So about 1.5 seconds, that's where I've got the logo coming in, and we are going to do some keyframe animation with this. So I want this to start, there we go, I want this to start really at almost nothing, and then get to about here. I can move these keyframes around, and we can bring this back up. So I actually want to go a little bit larger, so I'm overshooting, and then a frame, 1 frame later, 2 frames later, yeah, 1 frame later. Just bring the scale down a little bit, and that should now, if we play, yeah, I think I want the overshoot to be a little bit more, and maybe for this to go, okay, I think that'll work. So you see we've got the overshoot, and then we come back down. We start off nice and simple, logo pops in, and then everything else can appear. So I'm going to tweak this a little bit, and then the pencils and everything that come out around the side, that's essentially going to be done in exactly the same way with keyframing. So I just need to draw them in and then keyframe each part. Okay, so progress has been made. If I press play now, you'll see we've got our lovely moving lily pads, and then this pop up. So let me just scroll back a little bit. So what I've done here is the logo pops up and has a little bit of bounce to it, and then we've got these other bits that pop up behind, and again they have a little bit of bounce. So we've got a few art tools there, and then Uncle Frogface Studio, and then the last bit that I want to actually animate on here is the subscribe button down here. So it's in the same style as the Uncle Frogface Studio underneath the logo, but what I want this to do is to kind of float in from the bottom. In fact, if I just grab this here, I really want it to kind of and float up here and create some ripples. So the easiest way, I think, for me to do this is with the other way of animating on Procreate Dreams, and that is with the perform function. So this, unlike other animation, you actually grab an element and then you move it into, so you're actually performing, as the name says. Let me demonstrate. So if I click this down here, we are now in performance mode. It says ready up in the top corner. Now as soon as I start moving this, it's going to record those actions. So here we go. Great, and now I can go back and review that and see how it looks. Actually, not bad at all. What I might do though is just move it all a little bit further this way. So can I? Yes, it does. It moves my little bits as well. So we've got this, and then this starts floating in from the bottom. I still want to tweak this a little bit more, actually, the subscribe button. I want it to twist a little bit as it comes in. So I'm going to go in and do a little bit of keyframing for it. Essentially, we're almost done. I'm going to do a few finishing touches, which will be some frame-by-frame animation. Oh yeah, we've lost some of our lily pads there. We're doing a bit of frame-by-frame animation and just a few polishing touches. So when I come back to you, this should all be done. Okay, well that is me finished. I've had fun adding extra bits and sound as well, which is something else you can do in Procreate Dreams. And here is the finished piece. So that is a new channel intro. I can also reuse these assets for other animations. I've got lots of projects that I want to do for the channel using Procreate Dreams, so we'll definitely be returning to this. I'll do some of it in my own time as well. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Is Procreate Dreams something you've already got? Is it something you're looking into? Is it something you've never considered before? I was so happy when I first got it, and it just continues to exceed my expectations. But for now, as always, I really hope you've enjoyed today's video, and until next time, goodbye.